Happy Thursday and welcome to Real Estate Now. I'm Keith Pitch. I am joined with my co-host, Stacy Chevalier.
Good morning. Happy to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah, happy to be here as well. So today's a big day for me, Stacy. I don't know if you knew this. I didn't tell you backstage.
Uh-oh.
But today signifies my youngest turning 10.
Wow, double digits. Big day.
Double digits. All my children are now in double digits.
Wow.
It's a little bit like mind-numbing. At the same time, it's really, really cool. So I'm excited for the next 10 years and the next decade, going into the teenage years and driving and all that comes with all that fun stuff.
That stuff. That's awesome. That's cool. I don't hit that. My oldest will hit that next year.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big milestone too. When your oldest gets there, and then when your youngest gets there, it's like, whoa, here we go. And for all those parents out there, don't blink. It goes fast, right?
Yeah, true story.
So, well, we got a great show started or coming up here today. Wanted to first do what we always do, jump into interest rates. And they, my friends, are staying flat. We're right there about 2.9, 2.8. You can see the week over week trend is down 0.01%. So pretty inconsequential as far as movement is concerned. But the long story short here is that we are still in a great environment to refinance, to buy new property, to expand and build a real estate portfolio, right?
Yeah, historically low rates, and we expect to stay here for a little bit of time. So not forever, but for some time. So take advantage of it while you can.
Yeah, so like I was alluding to, build that real estate portfolio with dirty cheap money and have your cash flow bigger. So to talk about that today, we are teaming up with one of our special guests, BB French of Sagareus Real Estate, and I'm going to bring BB in now. BB, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay, how are you guys?
Good, doing great. So BB, you're joining us for an exciting time because you and your firm, which you own, women-owned business, awesome, well done. You guys specialize in property management as well as acquiring investment properties. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the firm, everyone here, myself, what we do is we specialize in finding investment properties. So the plan with them is to buy them and keep them long term. We try not to dabble too much in the fix and flip and all that stuff, although it does happen. But primarily long term hold. So obviously, you do that, you need to take care of them on the back end. So then we also offer the management services for that full suite of service for our clients and as well for ourselves and the brokers who work here.
Gotcha. So that's not to be confused with those guys out there fixing and flipping houses and turning and burning them, right?
Yeah, no, that's not what we do. I mean, I've done it. Everybody has done it, you know, but it's not our primary thing that we're trying to do.
Gotcha.
So when you have someone that's going to, maybe it's their first house, but their intention is to eventually rent it, as we talked briefly about backstage. Sure. Is that type of property that someone should be looking for different than maybe someone who's looking at a home for 7 years, 10 years, a longer hold? That's not going to keep it?
So the plan is, that's a lot of the clients we work with. So they want to build a rental portfolio, but they don't have the 25% down. So really for a non-owner occupied loan. So their best option is to do an owner occupied loan, whatever that is, 5%, 10% down, and live in it for a while and then keep it as a rental after they move out. And then, yes, to your point, that's going to be way different than if you're planning to live there for 10 years versus 2 years, what's it going to look like? So yeah, we want it to be a solid rental property. So we're looking for things like, configuration, but also like the demographics of the neighborhood, where it is in relation to transportation options like bus routes, schools, colleges, and by schools I mean community colleges, universities. good rental properties versus being out in the middle of a suburban, nice neighborhood, which is where maybe you want to live, but it's not going to be the strongest rental property for you long term. I mean, so we want to be in more of kind of like a blue collar working class area for rental properties.
I like how you state it on your website under your guys' case studies that you call them stepping stones.
Yeah, stepping stone.
And I think that's a really powerful concept to grasp, because it really is. You start with that small house that's perfect for rental, and it gets you in, and then you move up through the chain. So that is awesome.
Yeah, we made up an acronym. You know the acronym BRRRR investing? So like
yeah.
what is it? Buy, renovate, rent, refi, repeat.
Yep.
So we'll do that, and that's a good way to do it. But one, those deals are pretty hard to find, and two, you gotta have a lot of startup capital, like 125, 100, 200, probably about 200 grand, 150 grand to do that effectively. So we made a new one, which is we call it BRRRR ownership, which is buy, side, relocate, rent, repeat. Okay, so buy, reside there for a while, then relocate, then rent it out, and then do it again. So
can you just, as far as mortgage, if someone's intention is to eventually rent it, what are their requirements for the length of time they need to live in it if they do opt for an owner-occupied mortgage?
Well, it's a little different based on underwriter. FHA is going to want you to live there for a year. Conventional is at least 6 months. You should be there for 6 months at the narrow side of the coin. Long term, anything over 6 months is fine.
Plan on a year. Who wants to move every 6 months? Like, that's crazy.
No one.
Like, what are we doing? But
so I teased the show with the line that investors, they go out there, they've watched plenty of HGTV and read all the books, and they go out there and build this real estate portfolio, and they struggle to make money. And it's a testimonial you see all over the place. I never earned any money on my rentals until I had a property manager.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that, BB?
Well, you sent me that question, and it was like, why do people struggle to make money until they hire management? Like, that's kind of a leading question. I mean, I like it, but not everyone struggles. So some people are very good at running, operating their own rental properties. When they run it like a business. So I think it's multiple levels here. So first of all, you make money when you buy, so you need to make sure you have realistic expectations of what that property is going to produce and what money is going to need to be put into it to make it operate at that level. I have a lot of people who are like, okay, you're going to put $100,000 down, and then we're going to put $25,000 into the renovation, and then we're going to rent it for this much. So you're $125,000 into the deal. But escrow doesn't ask for that $25,000. They only want the $100,000. So then they just kind of skimp on that $25,000 on the back end, and then they don't do the work. I'm like, okay, I can't do that. So one, having a realistic plan. Two, actually doing the realistic plan and not getting mad about it. And then three is, which is the hard part, is running it like an actual business, not letting your tenants kind of, like they'll pull on. I mean, every landlord is a little different. Like some of them are like really extreme, hard nose, like won't work with anybody on anything, like just no human aspect at all. And then the opposite extreme where they're like, oh, well, they lost their job, so they can't pay their rent. So okay, we'll give them a free month or whatever. And it's like, no, you got to be somewhere in the middle. Or the tenants will ask for stuff, and they're like, yeah, fine, they're a good tenant. Let's give them a whole new bathroom. I'm like, what? No, they don't just. That's not how. Like, well, they asked for it. I'm like, yeah, you can say no. So that's why it's a lot. I mean, honestly, I have rental properties, and I have someone else manage them because it's easier to say no, or it's easier to hold the policies in place when I know I have to answer the owner of that property. That's not me. Because 2 customers. So I have to be able to justify it. So it just becomes easy. I mean, another way to ask that question would be, why is it easier to manage other people's properties than your own? And that's the reason, is because you're going to have to answer to them as well as the tenants and not just yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that really, you make that a strong point there when you say you've hired a different company to manage your properties, and it
not a
your emotional level out of it.
Different person.
Different person rather than you.
Not a different company.
Same company, different person.
Different
I get it, because otherwise you get too emotionally involved in.
I mean, it's like $600 and you're like, that's fine, like whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? Because if you are just thinking about your own personal finances, you're like, I got $600, throw it at it. But then if you take that specific asset out and just analyze it as its own asset, you're like, wow, we lost money. Which isn't good, but I make enough money that it doesn't matter. But still, like, that's not how you want to run that. Each little asset needs to be run as an individual business. And you got to take the emotion out of it.
You know, the other thing that resonated with me, and we've talked about this before, is, you know, the self-managed landlord, they get caught up in all that stuff when really their job should be managing the financials of that transaction.
Yep.
You know, so can you speak to that a little bit from the mindset standpoint?
Right. Like, if you're, unless, what should the owner be doing, right? Typically they have a job. Typically they have a family. And anyone with a job and a family knows that that's enough. So you don't really need a whole nother business, which is operating around property. So you need to be the owner of those assets, of those. Think of it as a business. You're the owner of the business. So if you're, like, for example, if you own a restaurant and it's a successful restaurant, like, are you in the back cooking? Are you doing are you the bartender? Are you no, you hire a general manager typically, right? That would then oversee all of these people who work at the restaurant, the waiters and waitresses, bartenders, the busboys, all that stuff. So it's the same thing. What does the owner do? The owner should look at the financials once a month, you know, and then meet with their manager and listen to their manager. Okay, because I've had, just like in a restaurant, the owner's like, we're spending too much money on food, like, cut the food costs. It's like, okay, but you're going to piss off all the customers and then no one's going to come here, right? So you got to listen to your manager, like, what's really going on, and then make those financial decisions at the top level. Is it time to refinance, right? Is it time to, you know, should we make a capital improvement? What are the long-term plans that we need to be thinking about? Growth, siding, you know, and that's it. So it should be high level, big picture stuff, and then you should be like looking for more properties if you're trying to grow the thing. Analyze the deal, putting money together, raising money, saving, you know, getting more money so you can buy more assets. Like, that's their primary job. Yeah.
Are you mainly helping people find properties? See, I hope I say this right. You guys help me out if I'm not. That will be producing income, any kind of income, as soon as possible, or ones that will appreciate the most over time?
That's based off what the client wants. So some clients are all about cash flow. Some don't care about immediate cash flow, and they're playing more of an appreciation game. And that's just entirely based off location. So, you know, in your core Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, you know, areas, you're not going to cash flow probably. You know, if you could put a higher down payment down and then you'll cash flow, you know, people are like, well, how much down payment do I have to put to get the most cash flow? I'm like, 100%. Cash flow a lot. You know, so it's a balance. But you know, but if you're buying in those core areas and you're only going to put 25% down, like, and I'm sure someone's gonna be like, oh, I did it. Good for you. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of. If you're gonna cash flow, there's gonna very likely be a lot of renovations that need to happen to that property in order to get there. So there'll be some negative cash flow for a while, and then you'll be cash flowing. But if you just want a turnkey, I'm just gonna buy this. There's already a tenant in there. I can put a tenant in there real quick. Probably not gonna cash flow for a while until rents go up. But you're playing that appreciation game. So, but the outskirts areas, you know, Everett, Tacoma, Linwood, Burien, what's the Des Moines, like stuff, places like that, Auburn. You'll be able to cash flow. But
yeah, the rental epicenter is just getting further and further away from Seattle now, as far as the rents appreciating. So
a lot of people are kind of leaving Seattle anymore. So.
Yeah, I hear people are going all the way to Montana. So
yeah, that's what I heard.
Backstory: BB and I both, and Keith, have this love affair with Montana, so it's fun. But people are moving all over the place, which is really, yeah.
I mean, Boise's been like up and coming for a while. I was just looking at the market over there just for fun. I'm like, wow, you can just pick these off the MLS for 6 caps. I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Like that list price. I'm like, we didn't even negotiate yet.
Right. Right out of the box.
Yeah.
So you said you want to find a real estate agent. If this is really where you're going as far as investment properties, building a portfolio, what are questions that you should be asking your agent to differentiate them between just the standard owner-occupied agent and somebody that actually knows the investor game?
You should ask them, like, do you specialize in investment properties? And if they say yes, be like, okay, what makes a good investment? I mean, just kind of test them, like, what makes a good investment property? How, like, can you, analyze this as a potential investment or rental property for me, and then see what they come back with? Because we're going to come back with a spreadsheet that's going to show you all your costs and income and expenses, and then how that's going to play out based on how much down payment you put and what your interest rate is. And if they just come back and say, "Oh, you'll be able to rent it for X," you don't have someone who knows about investment real estate. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with agents not knowing anything about investment real estate. Like, I'm not very good at representing people on a owner-occupant retail deal. Like, I had a client who wanted to buy their primary residence. Like, I worked with them buying rental property for years, and they wanted to buy their primary residence, and their budget was $4 million. And I was like, ooh, big deal. And then I looked at those properties. I'm like, I don't have any idea what I'm doing right here. I'm going to refer this out.
Yeah.
I referred it out, and my client was like, did you just refer out a $4 million deal? And I was like, yeah, I did, because I don't know that space. I don't know how to negotiate. I don't know what to negotiate on. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm like, I'm a Tacoma fourplex kind of gal. I can't sell you a $4 million property in Ballard. Like, I just don't know. So yeah, you want someone who's like specialized in, anyone who says that they specialize in everything doesn't specialize in anything. Oh, we help first-time buyers, people moving, upsizing. We do investment real estate. We do new construction. We do relocation specialists. Like, what do you do? Yeah. So I don't know what questions. Like, just poke at them, and if they can't come back and say something intelligent, then find someone else.
Maybe not the right choice.
But not to say that they're bad at everything. They're just not good at that one thing.
Right.
Not that big a deal.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier. It's when you get into investment real estate, just like you get into $4 million properties, those are very specific markets that you want somebody that's very knowledgeable in that market representing you. It's like if you went to your general practitioner and then all of a sudden you got a diagnosis, you need to go see that specialist, cardiologist, oncologist, whatever that is. Right. So it's definitely find the right professional. Property managers, some of them I've noticed have a varied approach to their maintenance plans. You guys are a little unique with having in-house maintenance, right? Tell us what the difference between having an in-house maintenance team and a property manager that doesn't have a maintenance team.
So yeah, we built out the maintenance department, team, whatever you want to call them, mainly so I could control the cost of maintenance. So the maintenance company that we operate doesn't make a profit. It just services our property management clients. And that's it. So there's no built-in profit. Like, it just, exists to function. I mean, there's a slight profit, but it gets reinvested into like tools and stuff like that. So the whole
And
company.
it's a full company. I mean, it can do electrical and plumbing and everything.
I mean, it's a maintenance company. So if it's electrical, I mean, we can do basic, like we can replace outlets and switches. If we need an electrician, we need an electrician. Speaking of specialists, if you need a plumber, you need a plumber. If you need a general contractor, you need a general contractor. But in terms of like the basic, like painting, maintenance items like replacing light fixtures, replacing plumbing fixtures, hinges, doors, locks, drains, P-traps, unclogging stuff, sinking drains. I mean, these are the common maintenance items. We do all that in house. So there's really only one reason to do it. I mean, one is the cost, and then two is that we control the scheduling. So if you have third-party vendors, you don't know. And especially if you're you're one guy and you've got like a triplex in Shoreline or something, you're gonna have a hard time getting a third-party vendor to come up there because you're kind of a low priority customer. You only call them twice a year.
Right.
So I mean, from their perspective, they're like, okay. I mean, and nothing against them, but they're trying to make money every day. They're not trying to hang out with you twice a year for.
It's cool triplex. Let's hang out.
But if you're like, I have 150 units, like, yeah, you can hire somebody full time and they'll just do whatever you need them to do at all moments. So suddenly your priorities are their priorities. But and that was, I mean, for us, that was a big piece of having. I was like, I just hire somebody full time, and then and then we hired a second guy, and then we hired a third guy. I mean, it just was the people we were calling. They were just vendors. And I'm like, hey, we called you. Like, I paid you $8,000 last month. Like, do you want to just make this official? Like, let's just
How about you come to work on the daily?
Well, it just makes it a lot easier for them and us, because they don't have to send me an invoice for every little thing they do. They just go do it and we clock it for them.
Right.
So yeah, maybe they make a little less money, but they don't pay taxes, they don't pay insurance, they don't pay. So anyway, but I mean, having in-house maintenance, in the property management industry, it's like a discussion, like there's like panels and there's pros and cons as to whether or not you should have in-house maintenance as part of your property management company. And there's good on either side. You've got a lot of liability. Your clients will accuse you of, like conflict of interest. Like, you're making a profit on the maintenance. I'm like, I promise I'm not. But some companies do, by the way. Yeah. Some companies do. We don't. But it does create some liability. It creates definitely a lot more headache for the management company in terms of dealing with all that stuff. But then on the flip side, like obviously I chose to run one because I think it's the right thing to do for my clients. Because if my job as the property manager is to, produce create performance for that asset, then it's kind of my duty to get you the cheapest, that highest quality maintenance that I possibly can. And the only way I can actually do that for sure is to own and operate that company. So, but somebody's got to do it, I don't know.
Well, we had a weird transition. Well, not a weird transition. We sold our one house and we did a short-term rental, and we needed some stuff done, and they didn't have anybody in-house. So we were always reliant on a third-party vendor, which we were never a priority, never. And so whatever the issue was, it sat for a week, and the property manager would come back to us and say, well, we talked to our vendor. They're going to get to you when they get to you. And it's just, to me, from a tenant perspective, it made me not want to rent there.
Well, right? And then there's that piece, right? Yeah, we very rarely do we talk about the tenants, but we should talk about the tenant. They're important. Yeah. They're the customer, and if it sucks living there, then they're not going to want to live there. So how long does it take them? How long does it take for a drain to get clogged? Like, my bathtub, has this full of water and it's draining really slow. And here's the thing: people, when they put in a maintenance request, have been thinking about putting in that maintenance request for like 2 or 3 days. Like I literally have to I'm like, we rent where we live. And I'm like, the shower head was like spraying all over the freaking place. Right. So you try to get a shower, you know, when you try and take a shower, but you don't want to get your hair wet but I couldn't. Right. So it was just a big problem. And I'm like, can you put in the maintenance request? And, you know, it took him like a week to put in the maintenance request. And then it takes maintenance another 3 or 4 days to fill the maintenance request. It's like, and that's a pretty good turnaround.
Right.
But that's the thing with maintenance is like people will, if it's not a big deal, like it's not an emergency, they're going to take a couple days just to do it. So having in-house maintenance obviously makes it way quicker. And I have background screening, fingerprints, and all this stuff for my maintenance guys. I don't want to just send in any random third-party vendor into an occupied property. They're going to steal. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. I don't know. I don't know these people. So then if you have a third-party vendor, then you have to have somebody go meet them and sit there and wait with them because you don't know who they are. You can't just have them show up and like, what are you going to give them keys to somebody's place? Like you can't do that. But with your in-house maintenance, you can, you know.
So, well, hey, I wanted to, first of all, thank you for coming on and talking about investment properties and property management and helping folks get 100% like profitable. That's what the goal is. But I wanted to really quick ask you about Own Your Future. So it's all over your website. This is currently your case study website. But Own Your Future, I've heard you talk about it, both with your investor clients as well as your team there. Tell us about it, because I think it's powerful.
Yeah, we came up with that little motto or slogan for the company, Own Your Future. And I mean, it makes sense, obviously, because we sell real estate. So we're like, own real estate, right? Own your future, own some real estate. So that was a really obvious meaning of it and makes sense to people off the bat. But the other piece of it for the internally and also for our clients and really just in general is this idea of like you own your future. It's up to you. You know, it's kind of a play off of Jocko, you know, that book, Extreme Ownership,
Right.
where like you're in charge of everything. Like no matter what happens, if you say that's my fault, I'm in charge of that. I'm gonna take ownership of that. It's, you know, I wrote this, like taking ownership over the outcomes that you produce in life, in your business, in your relationships, in your health, everything. It doesn't matter who you want to blame or what, you know, external forces are at play. It's like ultimately you have ownership of those outcomes. And if you take that attitude, like everything in life is a lot easier. So that's what it was about.
I agree with you more. I totally agree with you.
The internal staff too. Like they're like, well, so and so did this and so did that, and this happened, and I didn't know this and that and that. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, whose fault really is it?
Right.
And they're like, and if they don't say it mine, then I'm like, you don't need to work here, because who's like everyone has like their assigned results that they're supposed to be responsible for, and it's like you need to take ownership over it. And if you don't want to, then you can't work here, because I'm going to take ownership over myself and what I'm doing, and you need to take ownership over you. And it's just a really easy way to keep everybody on the same page and keep everybody focused on the things they can control and do their best, I guess.
Amen
Yeah, that's
to
great.
that.
That's a good motto for everyone to follow, no matter what business you're in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Own your future. Well, hey, we put your case study website in the chat here. People can go there, do some more research on you. Definitely call if they have any questions. But again, Bibi, I want to thank you for coming on the show here today and jumping in the wide world of investment real estate and property management. So,
Thanks, guys.
any final words?
Nope. Own your future. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Right on. It was fun and appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have you on again, Bibi, if you are down for that.
Sure, anytime.
Perfect. Well, have a good day. We'll talk soon.
See you
and
later.
Catch you later. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Real Estate Now. I hope you found some knowledge here about property management and investment properties. So join us next week. Stacy, what do we got next week? You remember?
Is it a quarterly thing?
Quarterly roundup. We're going to talk about Q3 and the records that were set. So we'll have our panel of real estate agents from Thurston County all the way up to Whatcom County and what's going on there. So join us next week for Real Estate Now. Have a great week, everybody.